Hi folks, it's John Nizman from lastchanceautorestore.com. Just a quick update on the 1958 Chev Impala two-door hardtop that we're doing a total rotisserie ground-up restoration on. So the last video that we shared with you, we had the frame all scraped and ready to be sandblasted on one rotisserie, and then we had the body on the other rotisserie, and it was ready to be sandblasted. So now we've sandblasted the frame. So we've now turned the frame upside down. So we've already sandblasted all the way around. That's the nice thing about these rotisseries is we can rotate the frame 3 different positions, and we ensure that we're able to sandblast everything. So as we come down the frame, you can see there's some, and these are all original factory welds. The camera can probably pick it up. So you have some splatter here where they've welded. You can see the front of one of the body mounts here. You can see there's a weld at the bottom. There's a weld here at the top, but there's nothing in the middle. And then if you note here on the inside, there's absolutely no welds on either side. So this is normal, what they would do in 58 for the frames. And then as we go down the frame further, so now we're down almost halfway to the frame, you can see once again, here's another main body mount, and you can see the factory missed this weld. We've got 2 little balls. So that should have had a weld here, what factory spec calls for, and then another one here. Note again, there's no welds on the inside. And you come to this outside, and the robot or the person, probably the person back then, missed this weld. So you just have the tack or the spot weld, because there was they spot weld them in place where they're supposed to go, and then they'd be MIG'd. So it's just MIG'd at the bottom. And then we have this parking brake bracket. When we come along the tube part where the drive shaft goes through, you can see, and this is the part that I don't like, you can see the gap here. So we have a factory weld and then a big gap from here all the way to the next weld. And you can almost, if you had a pencil, you could stick the pencil through there. So you see all of these spaces all the way across, okay, that come through. These are specific drain holes that they've left open on purpose, which I agree with. So we have these holes here, but I don't like these seams being exposed. So one of the things that we do here at Last Chance Auto Restore is we're thinking longer life down the road. So this is the bottom side of this main tunnel. We don't want to have the weather exposed to these open because there's a ridge, and moisture and road grime will get in there, and over time it can cause some rot and corrosion into the frame. So what we'll end up doing, not only will we add more welds to the main body mounts, but we're also going to close these gaps or spaces in. So we're going to fill those in all solid down both sides of the bottom that you see here, the bottom of the frame. When we go to rotate, after we've done the welding here, we'll rotate the frame on the rotisserie. We're going to do the same thing to this side, because what we're looking at here is the top. When this is rotated around, once again, there can be road grime that's going to get in. And I think the camera can pick it up from this angle. You can see the gaps or the spaces that are here, and then the gap here. So it doesn't take very long. We've got a really nice MIG welder. So we'll weld them solid. Then you can see here, we get further towards the back. You can see this body mount. We've got a little bit of a tack here from the factory and one here, but now look down this side. So this body mount has already done some flexing, because you can see this has actually started to pull away from the frame. So we don't like that at all. This is a body mount, and structurally we want it to be strong to the frame. So we'll bring this bracket tighter to the frame, and we will weld this solid. We'll also give it some welding on the inside. The factory thought that just tacking it in 4 spots was good enough, but this this Impala has an upgraded, which it didn't come with. It's a 409 big block, 4-speed manual, 12-bolt rear end. So little things like this, we don't want to have weak points, and we certainly don't want the body not mounted correctly to the frame. So we're going to repair those as we go along. As we come out further, you can see there's a main bracket here So with this bracket, once again, you can see the factory tack welds it here. They put a solid weld across, but then see from this angle where my pen is, there's another opening there and there's a big gap. So we're going to clean that out with a wire brush, and then we'll weld that solid because we don't want that exposed. And then not only there, but as we come further towards the back, this is where the factory joins that section of frame to the other section of frame. And you can see it's not welded solid. So what we're going to do is we will grind these, what I call exposed seams. We'll grind this clean and smooth all the way around. We will weld this solid with our MIG welder all the way around, continuous welds. You can see the same thing on this other side. So this side of the frame is the same thing. So they've slid one piece of channel into the other and it's spot welded, but it's not a solid weld all the way around. So we'll weld this solid also. And then as you come back further, we now have our rear suspension perch. And you can see here, once again, we've got some holes and some gaps, which we don't really like. So in terms of detail, we're going to weld this closed, and we'll weld this one closed, and then we'll continue down. Here's another example. So now we're towards the back part of the vehicle, and this is near the trunk area, and this is another body mount. You can see factory weld here, but just a stamp weld on each side. Nothing welded on here, and certainly nothing on the insides. So it won't take very long for us as we're going. We will weld not only the inside of each body mount, but we'll weld the back sides where it doesn't have enough strength or protection, in our opinion. So as we get to the very back of the frame, you can see this back header panel that rolls over, and this is very, very common. So this is pulled away, so it's split and cracked, and this U-shaped piece is pulled away from the actual rollover part of the frame. So we will straighten this out, and we'll weld that solid, both the back side and this side. And then you can see here where we have an exposed opening. So this is the very back that rolls over, and you can see this has quite a gap where the pen can fit through. I don't really would want to have a bunch of debris coming into there and pooling where we have another main mount. So we'll weld this shut too to make sure that it lasts a really long time. So once all of the welding is done, then we'll clean everything up. We'll use a special solution to wash the frame down, and then it will be ready for a sealer, which is a 2-part black epoxy. We'll give this frame 2 or 3 coats, probably 3 coats of epoxy to seal it. And then once we have that done, then we're going to give it a top coat of a gloss black. So we'll give it probably 2 or 3 coats of a nice high gloss black, single stage solid paint finish. So you've got perfect protection on the frame itself. So there's a couple of points when we roll the frame over and when we inspect it closer. There's going to be a couple of sections of frame where we're going to not only do a repair or enhance, but there's a couple of locations where we're going to have to replace. So to save time, you can see, I think the camera can pick this up. So this is the front section of the frame, and it's still upside down. So you can see there's some heavily pitting on this steel, and that's where a bracket would be. So what we're probably going to do is we will cut that heavily corroded section out, and we will weld in a new plate, a new piece in there, and then weld it solid and grind it smooth. So instead of having this heavily pitted section here, we're going to make sure that it's replaced. On the opposite side of the frame, so that would be the passenger side of the frame, there's actually some pinholes through, and we'll share that in an upcoming video where we cut out and repair those pieces. So on both sides we have heavy corrosion, and then there's a couple of points here at the front where you see a little bit of a tear or a little bit of a split. It's worse on the other side. So what's happened, this vehicle has been pulled or tied down or recovered at one point, and there's been a tie hook in here, and it's been over tightened. This is minor. This is just a little bit of an imperfection. We'll bend this back over and put a tack weld on here, but on the opposite side, it's pulled and split wide open. So we'll show that in the next video. So basically this is just a quick go through, look at the frame. It's in really nice condition. It's a 58 Impala frame. And then we'll just quickly go to the body now. So now we have the front cowl area is all sandblasted. The side, all around the windshield area has all been sandblasted. We manually did the roof because we didn't want any warpage. And then you can see inside here, the inside door post where the hinges go, this is all nice and clean now. And then the rocker panel all the way across where the inner wraps. You can see the spot welds, the bronze tacks here. This is from factory. And you can see now some neat things come out. You can see date codes. So there's a 3-digit code. That's a factory code that's stamped in, and with all the layers of paint and so on, you would never have seen that. So now we've got some neat little marks that the factory did, and they've stamped in certain places. So as we come down, in the earlier video, you saw where they did some patching. So by rights, this car needs an outer rocker panel. It needs the lower portion of the quarter panel replaced, and then it also needs quite a bit of repair in the flare here. You can see where it's rotted through, which there's no surprises there. And then as we pointed out earlier, we've got lots of pop rivets and so on along this section or this area. Things that get exposed after sandblasting, and this is the main reason why we do it. This is covered by the bumper, but you can see here where there was this is what we would refer to as like a Swiss cheese kind of rusting. So this will need to be cut out, and we'll need to repair this with new steel. And that had a bunch of different kind of product in there. And then as you come around, you can see up in here, I can literally put my pen through it. So that's corroded right through. That had some type of fiberglass material. And then as we come along here, you can see we have lots of corrosion that's rusted through. And I think the camera can pick that up. So as you come across the rail, you can see all the pinholes. So this was all improperly repaired previously. Someone's just used a bunch of body filler and filled in those holes. And then when we sanded it and then the media blasting, it exposes all these little surprises. You can see inside the trunk, we didn't go crazy in sandblasting the trunk because we knew, you can see there's lots of holes through here. So you can see all the pinholes all the way through, and that's without having to sandblast too much. So you can see there's pinholes all the way, I believe you can. I think the camera can pick that up. All those little white spots, they're actually rust through holes. And then the bracket there, you can see the rust through hole. So we knew ahead of time this trunk floor will need replacing. So we've just verified that by just giving a dusting with the sandblaster in the wheel well areas on both sides, those tubs, and then that rail going across is quite solid, but you can see right straight ahead there's some pinholes there also. So that's part of that trunk floor. That'll be cut out and we're replacing this trunk floor. When we come around this side, you can see the section or the area that would be really time consuming to clean out. Because it's so robust and strong, we're able to just media blast all in that section to bare metal. You can see the solder line from the factory, the lead, sorry, where they've done the lead to join the two panels together from the factory. As we come down this side, same thing, we've got corrosion in the lower panel, which we knew about. We've got a bunch of pop rivet patches along here, and then the outer rockers, same kind of thing. Now, something that's really not done correctly, and that's on the inside here on the floor, and that's the main reason why we didn't sandblast. A lot of this is the sand residue, but we intentionally didn't. You can notice in here, we didn't waste the time of sandblasting this section because we have several patches. The camera can pick that up, I'm sure. These are all fiberglass matting patches that have been done to try and hold or hide the holes going through. This is part of the structure of the inner floor to the inner rocker panel. And then you can see all of these patches that have been done at different times. So we have this big patch here that's been put over top, and then another patch on top of that, and then this is what we really don't like, and we've got a bunch of pop rivets going all the way across where they've tried to reconstruct So this has been rotted out. It's very common on a 58 Impala. You've got the outer rocker panel, the inner rocker panel, and the floor where they join. So this has been rotted away, and someone has made these pieces and overlapped. The drawback is we have 3 different patches that are on top of rusted out metal. So that needs to be removed. So this will require, both sides will need an inner and outer rocker panel to go continually through, and that's the main structure of the body, which ties in with the roof in terms of structural support. You'll notice we didn't sandblast this section too well, once again, because we know we're going to be doing the half floor pans, because you can see the pop riveted pieces here on top, once again, of rusted metal. The tunnel is in really nice shape, and we'll be welding into this area and coming across very similar to what the factory did. So as we come around this, oh, I guess we have to go back around, sorry. So we'll come back around this way, because I forgot to mention on the other side, on the driver's side, there's a couple of main structural points, and then I believe the camera can pick this up quite nicely. In the next video, we'll rotate the car on the rotisserie to show you, but here's a perfect example. With in the previous video, before we sandblasted, there was thick material that was all in this section, and we removed it. If you recall, it was very thick. You can see this is all rusted through. So all of that stuff was kind of hiding or covering, and here's some of the remainder of that stuff that was in there. So that's always hiding a lack of steel or support. So you can see in here, this is all quite clean, but in the next video we'll show you the inside rockers. There's really nothing left of them, and it's very, very common in this style, in this Impala. So the last thing I'm going to point out is the structural points here just inside the driver's side, and I apologize for not pointing it out earlier. So you can see we have our outer quarter panel, the inner quarter panel, and then we have our rocker panel, which is inner, that's coming to meet. And this is main structural support. And someone's put a patch in here, and you notice the spacing that's here. So that's not correct. There is a gap on the other side, but it's wider on this side, and someone's added a piece. And then you can see here where there's been lots of corrosion. So we're all the way through. The main support piece that comes across, it's been pushing and pulling, and then someone has done that kind of fiberglass repair, and then if you see what it's hiding, it's not very good, because now we have our main support brace that isn't attached to anything, and it's exposed this rusted through hole. So once again, we knew this going in. We saw all of the patches on top of patches. We suspected there was going to be a lot of like pop rivets and improper repair, so we kind of knew we kind of knew up front that we were going to be cutting out these floors and welding new floors in. So now it's just showing everything, the rocker panels, the inner rockers, and the main structure. So don't want to ramble on too much, just wanted to share with you, this is the next stage on the 58 Impala. Now that it's sandblasted, we have a better idea of what metal we need to order and what metal that we're going to have to make here with our English wheel and so on that you can't purchase. So thank you for watching. Once again, this is the 58 Chev Impala. I'm John from lastchanceautorestore.com.